All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me again. This little series called The Basics. We're moving on to the next kind of phase in throwing. So we've centered, we've opened up the clay, and we've done a pull. All right. The next phase that I'm going to cover, I'm going to call shaping the clay. All right. And I've broken this down into 3 steps, sort of steps. Okay. First, inside out, outside in. This will make sense in a little bit. Second, visualize and trace the shape. I'll dive into details on that jazz too, okay? And then finally, third is collar. Yeah, let's jump right into it. Easiest way is just to show you, okay? So again, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for your time. All right, here we are. Clay's been centered, clay's been opened, and I've done my first pull. Okay. This video is going to be all about shaping the clay and kind of what I would consider like the 3 steps or the 3 sort of fundamentals, in my humble opinion, for shaping the clay. Again, to review: number 1, inside out, outside in. Number 2, visualize and trace the shape. And then number 3 is collar. Okay. So what I mean by that, let's step through it. If you want the clay to come out, your inside hand is sort of going to be steering the pull. Again, squeezing the clay, little T-Rex arms in the way up. But if you want that clay to come out, your inside hand is kind of leading the dance and pushing out. So that's what I mean by inside out. And just the inverse of that, if you want the clay to come in, all right? Your outside hand will be sort of leading the dance, leading the pull. So that's what I mean by outside in, okay? The next step is visualizing or tracing the shape. So what I mean by that is I want to make kind of a little bud vase, all right? So with, most any form, I start with just kind of a straight cylinder like that. Again, compressing the rim. And then the next step is I'm going to make kind of a bud vase with a belly and a neck and a little sort of flared opening at the top. So when I say visualizing and tracing the shape, what I mean is I'm going to picture my fingers from the inside kind of taking that clay and then just tracing the inside of that belly and of that neck as I move up, okay? So what I mean by that is down here at the bottom, I want it to have a bit of a foot. So I want my outside hand moving in. Next step, I want it to have a belly. So now my inside hand is pushing out. And then as I move my way up, I want it to have a bit of a neck right here. So again, we're transitioning. Outside hand is pushing in. And then inside hand pushing out to give it the curves like that. All right. Step number 3, I'm going to call collaring. Okay, if the clay gets wider than you'd like, or if you want it to be more narrow than essentially obviously where your hand can get in there, you're going to do what's called collaring, and you'll just do it just from the outside. The key with collaring is to make sure there is plenty of water and that you do it slow and steady. So I actually want to bring this neck in more narrow, and so it depends on how much the clay you're trying to move. The less points of contact, the less friction. So I'm going to try and just bring just this section, the next section, in a bit, and I'm going to use sort of the blade of my hand, or I'm sorry, the inside of my pointer finger here and my fingertips, just to control the movement of the clay as I collar it in. Sometimes I will also, if you do this, it comes over time with a steadier hand. But sometimes that rim will kind of get a little kittywampus on you as you're collaring it in. It's just typically a matter of not being quite as steady, and that just takes time. Sometimes what I'll do is when I'm collaring, I'll keep sort of a finger over top, or just keep this part of my hand up top to kind of control the rim to rein it in, just like that. Another quick note too, every time you collar the clay in, you're thickening it back up. You're basically putting more clay in the amount of space that was there before, and so after every pull or after every collar, I usually come through and just compress the clay, thin it out a little bit more, just like that, okay? Another little bonus trick, there is another way to collar where you're thinning and bringing the clay in at the same time. So this is going to be a little dramatic and make the form look kind of weird, but basically I want to bring this clay in and thin this out. So what I do, and sometimes I do it with my left hand, right hand, whatever, I'm a little ambidextrous, but I'm going to collar with my left hand and I'm going to thin the clay out with my right as I bring the clay in. Need to add a little bit of water. And then sometimes I'll even just speed up the process. Just like that. Thin it out a bit. A little bit of water. Same deal. I'm going to use this shape and I'm collaring the clay in while my right hand is thinning it out at the same time. It also helps to avoid some of that buckling and some of the torque and twist that'll happen at times. Just like that, okay? So again, to review, inside out, inside hand out, outside hand in. Visualize, trace the shape, and then finally collar. This step is going to take a lot of practice, so just keep at it. Crank them out. You can always reuse clay just as long as you don't fire it. Rule of 10,000. Thank you. All right, there we had it. Another quick video in the books for the basics, okay? Shaping the clay. Again, inside out, outside in. If you want the clay to come out, that's the inside hand's job. It's going to be kind of steering the pull or leading the dance. And then just the opposite of that, if you want the clay to come back in. Outside hand is going to be steering the pull, leading the dance. Here's another little tip. If you want the clay to come straight up, I've noticed if you get your body right above the clay and then bring the clay up to your face, like almost like the trajectory of your hands is like it's coming up to your face, that's a way to keep that clay vertical so you can get some more height. Kind of a little divergence, but again, inside out, outside in. Step 2, visualize and trace the shape. Have kind of a picture in your mind's eye of what you're going for, at least per pull. Just mess around a little bit and then just sort of try and get in that flow state. Just zone out, stare at it. Your hands will figure it out, just give it some time. And then finally, step 3 is collaring that clay in. Just manipulating the clay just from the outside, collaring it in either with the full palm of your hand or just your fingertips. And then again, that little sort of pro tip or whatever you want to call it at the very end of collaring and pinching as you go. That one's going to take a bit of practice. I'm not amazing at it, and I've been doing this for several years. Here's one last final thing about pottery in general is try not to get emotionally attached to anything you make. Good times. Seriously, you can always make new stuff, always make extras. You will get better at this. Just keep cranking it out. Comments, suggestions, let me know what you want to see next. I'm going to do a couple more basic videos. Haven't quite nailed down exactly what they're going to be, but put the notifications on, subscribe, like, share, all the fun things, and you'll see the next video coming up soon. I appreciate your time. Sincerely appreciate it. Thank you very much. Peace.